Hello, Phil. You know what? You were muted.
You muted me.
I did.
That was you did that.
I could. This is because I could. I did because I could hear you were hacking up your lungs or something in the background just as we started that.
Just
So
want the stage
it
to
was.
yourself.
Yeah. Just wanted to. It's going to become a thing now. Every time we start one of these, it's my mission to try and throw a bit of shade on you through technical
Yeah,
measures.
it's not hard.
Your direction.
My computer melted last week, so
It's true.
um, I'm just measuring the warmth of it. I think Restream actually it does hit Chrome quite hard. I do think there's a
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
about that. I'm blaming that at the moment.
Yeah.
I've not had any problems since. Anyway, how are you doing? It's your last day before you go on holiday, isn't it? Are you actually
It
going on
is.
holiday? As in,
We are. Yes. At the start of last week, that was all into house on account of we discovered my youngest daughter's passport had expired in April when we thought it had another year on it.
oh,
Yes.
Dan.
So that was fun and games. I have to say, although it was stressy and frustrating, fair play to the passport office because they actually turned it around really quickly. I was in Peterborough on Saturday at the passport office there. Daughter's passport arrived on Wednesday. Can't say
Okay.
fairer than that. But yeah, we will be going, thankfully.
That's
What
good.
about you? How are you doing?
Well, I'm not going on holiday. I'm going to carry on working for a bit, but yeah, all good. Yeah, I had my last London day in the week, meeting some old colleagues, which was very nice. A guy called Volker I used to work with from the German arm of an agency, Firefly. He was over, so I had a few beers with him. He said, "Let's have a beer or five," and he held me to that. And I'm glad it was Wednesday night, not last night, because you remember last time I went out for Thursday drinks,
Yes, I
and
do. Yes.
I wasn't in great shape on the live, so
Yeah.
I'm fully recovered. What have we got
Hey,
this week to talk about, Dan?
well, we've got some quite meaty stuff to get into. A bit of fun. It is, after all, our final episode of season two before we head
Mm-hmm.
off for the summer break. So we are going to check in on Threads and how that's going. We are going to have a walk down memory lane. Well, hopefully a walk down memory lane. Hopefully some people watching have heard of the things that we're going to talk about on old social media and old social networks. And we are going to have a discussion about, um, let's say euphemistically, how some salespeople could do a better job of using social media to help their careers. Is that polite? That's polite, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
We'll get to that one. I think people will all have an opinion on that they'll be sharing in the comments either before, well, not before the show, but during or after the show. So yeah. Right. Well, should
100%.
we start with Threads then? That's for me to kick off, isn't it? So
Yeah,
let's
let's do
have
it.
a chat about Threads. So Threads, in case you haven't noticed or people watching haven't noticed, is the new Twitter rival from Meta, and it launched a big fanfare a couple of weeks ago. And it's fair to say it really did kick off well. Within 5 days, it had got 100 million users, which is quite incredible growth, due in part perhaps to it being part of the Meta stable, particularly using your Instagram account, which is a very genius move. But they've hit some problems really in that people have sort of looked at it, played with it, not come back as much as they would like. So I saw some stuff from the Knowlton brothers. Which one was it? Dan Knowlton.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan Knowlton. He does a Friday newsletter, which is very good. Go and check it out. And he had a piece about how the Threads numbers have just been going down through the floor. Looking at some stats from SimilarWeb. So basically, I think they had 4.49 million users on the 7th of July and logging in. And by last Friday, that had dropped down to just over 23 million users. I mean, people just
Mm,
aren't using it very much. It hasn't
yeah.
seemed to have ignited people's interest and kept it. What's your take, Dan?
We're not wanting to be too much of a copycat, but if I think about my own personal use of Threads, I'd say it mirrors that. As you know, try not to get drawn into the hype of brand new things and jump into them straight away. But with Threads, I was genuinely interested
Mm.
to see where it could play a role, and I found that I am having to remind myself to go in and check on it.
Right.
Rather,
Okay.
it becomes a conscious decision rather than something that I'm naturally drawn to doing. On, with LinkedIn, I'm drawn to LinkedIn. Threads is much more of an effort. I think the feed is probably the biggest obstacle there, because they
Yeah.
haven't sorted the feed out yet. It's still a lot of random stuff that requires somebody to mute, block, and do a lot of work to start seeing stuff that they want to see. I know you can adjust the settings so that in theory, you only see stuff from people you follow, but there's still a lot of things that are coming in there that are
Yeah.
just not relevant to me.
What do you like about it? What on a positive note? What value do you get from it? Or what features are you going? Actually, that's quite cool. I like that.
Well, I'd say one of the positives is actually something that may also become one of its limitations, which is it doesn't feel like a place where lots of political conversations are happening. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like a place where people are trying to break news stories that may or may not be verified, legitimate sources of news. And I think that's part of Meta's, conscious push for
Yeah.
the platform. But it's less chaotic. Even though the feed has got a lot of things in that are not relevant to me, I don't get a chaotic vibe from it, and I think that is to its credit. What about you?
Yeah, fairly similar to you, feeling like it's something I ought to go and have a look at rather than sort of going, oh, this is a must do thing. I find, side by side, not actually necessarily comparing it to Twitter, which is the obvious comparison, but even if I compare it to something like TikTok or Instagram, where I go to and I get a bit of entertainment from those sorts of places, it's a bit of sort of thumb scrolling and sometimes some interesting stuff too. So yeah, there isn't the same utility for me either. I do quite like the fact that a lot of media brands have got on board. I mean, I know they've said that they don't want it to be a news service, but if you look at the likes of the FT and the Times and so on, that they're all actually on there putting their pieces up, and it's quite that you get a bit more space. It's quite well done, and I get a bit of value from following a few news sites. Sometimes I see things there before I might see them actually on a news page. So I think there's something. I think they should probably just push that a little bit harder actually, and get people more interested in. And there are some more features coming, aren't they? I mean, they will do search at some point, and they might well do hashtags and various other things. And they've updated it, I think, at least once since they've launched it. So I think it will. I think it will come, and perhaps the early launch was actually a bit too successful for them. Maybe it would have been better if it was a little bit more of a slow burn and it built up a bit and got a bit more word of mouth around it before it started to build a head of steam. So I think people's expectations it was really overhyped, and I think it would have been stronger if it built up over time, like Twitter did and Instagram did, and many of the other successful networks. So
yeah, well, to put that in context, Phil, there's a video that I'm going to put in the show notes from Cold Fusion on YouTube, and there's some great factoids that came from that. So it got to the 100 million, I think, in less than a week, and it took Twitter 4 years to get to that point. So you can see why Elon Musk was challenged or frustrated by it. They've also said things like, and this may work to their credit, they've also said like they're not going to put ads on the platform until they've got 1 billion users.
Okay.
Do you believe that? Is the question. Are they going to wait?
Will they get there? Is probably more the question. Yeah, I mean the Twitter thing on the numbers is quite interesting, because I think Twitter has a disproportionate footprint in the psyche of the world, really, particularly through the media. It's only got 370 odd, depends what number you read, about 370 monthly active users, and Instagram's got 2-point-something billion. It's and it wouldn't take long for Threads to if it managed to continue its initial upswing, then it wouldn't take it long to catch up and overtake Twitter. So I think people probably overestimate its importance, really, or overplay its importance.
It's definitely got more influence than it should have. But if you're watching this, whether it's live or after the event, tell us what you think about Threads.
Yes, and we've got to do a question. It's our new format, isn't it? A yes/no. For those that weren't with us last week. I'm going to ask a question, and Dan and I are going to answer yes/no at the same time on a 3, 2, 1. That's not my 3, 2, 1, Dan. And then you're welcome to join in and give us your thoughts in the comments. So my question on Threads is, will you still be using Threads daily even on a consumption basis, by the end of the summer, i.e., by the time we come back for the next season of Shedheads. So, will you still be using it on a daily basis by the end of the summer? I'm going to do the 3, 2, 1. So, 3, 2, 1. Oh, same. You got to know.
Sorry, Zook.
Yeah. I can't see myself using it daily. Not daily. I think I'll still use it, but, you know.
Yeah, I think something fundamental needs to change in the way that they're presenting the feed at the moment for it to be more useful and for it to feel like a place I want to go. But at the moment, it's not. Yeah, I can't see that happening unless something changes.
Charlotte, Charlotte, I forgot to mention your name, Charlotte. I apologize for when we met up with Volker. I also used to work with and enjoyed the beers with Charlotte. She's now recovered and said no. Simply no from you, Charlotte.
Congratulations on your recovery, Charlotte. Chandeep personally ignored threads. Like so Chandeep says, personally ignored threads completely. If when it gets traction, I might take a look. You are a man after my own heart there, Chandeep. On pretty much everything else, that's the category I would fall into.
Yeah, you did throw yourself into it. I mean, probably I see more of your stuff down than most other people's on threads. Which,
yeah, I did. I had hope. That's what I had. And
hopes were dashed a little.
Yeah, it's not gone completely.
No.
Yeah, we'll see.
Still to play. We
shall see.
Okay. Should we move on to number 2, Dan? You've got this one.
Yes, I have. So, thank you very much, Charlotte and Chandeep, for getting involved in the comments. Hopefully, more to come. So, with apropos of absolutely nothing, I started thinking a couple of weeks ago, about social networks that launched with lots of hype and interest around them, but then died and are nowhere near us anymore. And it got me thinking about what's happened to some of the social networks, social media platforms of yore. And I wanted to go through a test with you guys. So please feel free to get involved in the comments on this one. And by the way, Richard Medley has just chipped in on threads. Landed 1 day's interest before randomness turned me off. There you go. come back to it when that feed gets fixed. I think it will make
that sentence could apply to a lot of things in life, couldn't it, Dan?
Yes. Joseph has commented as well. I'll just read this before I put it up on the screen. I don't use it at all. However, we could be missing something by not adopting it early. Remember the days of Instagram? It took a while to be used as a good marketing tool. Actually, that is a really good point. Something I was going to mention about threads before we jump into the next section is this Cold Fusion video that I'll drop into the comments after the show. The most interesting thing about that is not the beef between Twitter and threads. It's actually the technology that threads is based on. It's a decentralized capability. Yeah, that allows you potentially to publish something on one social media platform and then be able to view it in another. So completely, in theory, breaking down all of the walled gardens that exist between them. Now, Facebook's not got great form for making that kind of thing a reality. So I'm not putting all of my eggs in that particular basket, but that is an interesting move that could have a fundamental difference, or could have a fundamental impact on how social networks run in the future if Threads gets the momentum and the volume that it needs. I don't know what Phil has just poured himself on. That's a non-alcoholic beer, isn't it?
No, might be. I'm not going to do alcoholic beers at this time whilst doing a live stream, Dan. I'll be absolutely. No. I thought it was the holidays, so why not just, even a non-alcoholic one?
It's true. It's true. Awesome. Right. So let me jump into this. Okay. So there are 3 social networks, social media platforms of the past that I've been doing a little digging on. And I wanted to get your view on whether or not you've used them, what you felt about it, etc., and how much you know about what's happened with them now. So the first one is Bebo.
Oh, yes.
Bebo. Now, I have a confession to make with Bebo. Never used it, never signed up to it, had absolutely nothing to do with it. But it launched in 2005. And from my understanding, it was basically like Facebook before Facebook existed. I may have
Yeah.
got that wrong. Shoot me down in the comments if I've got that wrong, please.
Fun fact, Dan, you're going to give me some fun facts in a minute.
I am.
Charlotte, who's on this, I'm pretty sure, Charlotte confirmed this, that you used to do the PR for Bebo. There you go. That is a coincidence.
That is a coincidence. I promise you, Charlotte, that's not set up. If that's true, it is not a setup.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So she'll be able to correct any of the facts. I'm just about to dish out to you. So did you use Bebo?
I signed up to it second time around. So from memory, it was quite big. I think we were a bit old, Dan, because it was more marketed at youngsters when we were adults and probably shouldn't have been using it. And then it relaunched, and I was a social media person, and I re-signed up to it out of curiosity. I seem to remember there being some stuff where you could create some sort of cutesy avatars. That was its selling point. But yeah, so not really is the answer.
Okay. So Charlotte has completed a lot of Crisis Comms work for Bebo. And what I'm about to tell you may explain
Mind boggles.
what kept Charlotte busy. So it was launched in 2005. It was acquired by AOL in 2008.
I remember that,
for $850 million. Right?
Okay.
In 2010, so 2 years later, when they realized that they couldn't keep pace with Facebook's evolution, it got sold to a hedge fund. Right?
Okay.
It then filed for bankruptcy in 2013, was bought back by the original founders, which was a husband and wife duo, for $1 million, having sold it for $850 million a few years earlier.
Yeah.
Not bad business. It had various kind of iterations and developments through the years, and then it was bought by Amazon, of all people, the Twitch department, in 2019 for $25 million. So having sold it once for $850 million and buying it for $1 million, they then managed to sell it for $25 million. These people are absolutely rolling in it. Then, and this is the bit that I didn't know, there was a relaunch in 2021 of Bebo, but it never left.
Another one.
Yeah, it never left beta. Never left beta, and it shut down for good in 2022.
Okay.
So there is no Bebo.
Bye Bebo.
Bye Bebo. And we have our first admitted user of Bebo from Joseph. Used it quickly, moved over to MySpace. Yeah, I'm sure you're not alone. It's either MySpace or Facebook that picked up the slack from Bebo. Here's a fact. Do you know what Bebo stands for?
Oh.
No Googling in the comments.
No. I've got a feeling that Charlotte would have told me that when she was working. I can't remember. No.
Okay. I'm going to go with it.
Kick myself.
Drum roll, please. It is blog early, blog often. Now, that is not what it actually stood for when they christened it, but after they christened it, they retrospectively gave it that meaning.
What a tagline.
Well, amazing, isn't it? So
I'm surprised it didn't last longer.
Yes. Why isn't everyone on the Bebo now? So question then, and this is one for you in the comments as well. Seeing as we've sold this so brilliantly, the question is, on the count of 3, if Bebo did come back again for like the 4th time, it was reanimated, its corpse was reanimated, would you be interested in using it today? Okay. So.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Nah.
Phil is on.
I don't think we even need to talk. We don't even need to talk about that, do we?
Phil is saying on to that. You've got to get this. Your screen's mirrored.
No, it shows up all right. I'm pretty sure it shows up on the playback. All right.
Okay. Okay. In that case, mine is in reverse on the playback.
Unless somebody tells me that it's backwards. Chandeep knew it was blog early, blog often, and smarty pants.
Yeah. Well done, Chandeep. You get an enormous sense of well-being from knowing that. Okay, right. The next one is Foursquare.
Okay.
Now, this one I think is probably less well-known than Bebo, but will still be pretty well-known to the audience. So Foursquare was started in 2009, and it was basically like a gamified location sharing tool.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that I fully bought into this and had lots of fun with it. So I'm not going to put that one up, Charlotte. I'm just going to leave that one.
I think that's why she might have been doing lots of crisis comms work, Dan. I think we knew there were probably some people on Bebo that shouldn't have been on Bebo.
Yeah,
anyway,
well,
back to Foursquare.
Back to Foursquare. Moving on. So yeah, Foursquare, basically mobile first gamified location sharing app, and it did things like it encouraged the users to check in to certain locations and become the mayor by checking in more than anybody else.
That's right. Yeah.
And then it also encouraged the locations themselves to offer some sort of incentive to people to check in. So like a discount for a mayor on a pint or something like that. So did you use Foursquare? And in the comments, if you use Foursquare, let us know too.
Yeah. I was quite into it for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get really, really childish and start creating random venues that you could check in and become the mayor of just for the sake of it?
I think I did create the Welwyn Garden City train station one, and then there was quite a battle over it because all of the commuters logging in and trying to be the mayor of Welwyn Garden City train station at commuter times. And I had it for a bit, and then I lost it, and I got really angry that I'd lost it because I created the thing, and then I thought, what am I doing on this app? And deleted it. And that was the end of my Foursquare. It was all about Welwyn Garden City train station.
Well, can I just say on a scale of maturity, you were clearly far more mature with it than I was.
Okay, what were you doing?
I was just making up random places. Well, they weren't random places; they were actual places, but they were not the kind of place that you were ever going to get a discount for being a regular customer in. So, for example, near where I live, every time I walk to work or walk to the train station, there is a roundabout, and next to the roundabout there is a Burger King. So it's known locally as the Burger King roundabout. And I was in a running battle with a number of friends who became the mayor of the Burger King roundabout and then stole it back from other people. And I can see here that we've got a hardcore fan in Chandy, because he also used to get rage when people took over his mayorship. And it was that thing. It was really, for a certain mindset of people that were using smartphones, that smartphones were still new.
It's the dopamine hit, isn't it? You get the dopamine hit when you're using it, and you get the point and the endorsement, the thumbs up type thing. So I think that was it works on brain chemistry, like on most social networks, but particularly that one.
Yeah.
It just reminded me, actually, there's one of the features, I don't use it anymore, but on Strava is like you owning particular sprints or area. I can't remember what they call them.
King of the Hill.
King of the Hill type stuff. It's very similar to what they were doing on Foursquare, where you see people absolutely belting around on their bikes so that they can be the best, or running particular routes over and over and over, so they can have those mayoralship equivalents. So there's obviously something about that gamification that still exists today, even though Foursquare is defunct.
Well, is it, Phil? So here's the thing.
Oh, you're not going to tell me it's still going, are you?
I am going to blow your mind here, because Foursquare was never about consumer engagement. The play with Foursquare was always about B2B enterprise location capabilities. So Foursquare actually still exists today. So at some point, what they did was they split out the consumer app from the enterprise front end, and they created Swarm. And Swarm is still alive and kicking today.
I have heard of Swarm. Yeah. Okay.
So
no, that was Swarm Foursquare. Okay.
As an enterprise location business, they are still going today. And Swarm is still going today as well. And I have a very, very sad fact to share with you, which is I once went to a Foursquare Super Swarm event at Piccadilly Circus, because everyone was so enthusiastic about Foursquare that when lots of people checked into one place at one time, it sent the system into overdrive, and everyone's like, oh, they must be really cool. We should go meet there as well. And I blame someone who both you and I know.
You're going to tell me that you were really into Pokemon Go next, aren't you?
No. I was totally over it by the time both Pokemon Go came on.
Okay.
But a mutual friend of ours, Bernie Mitchell, He was at the front end of organising these Super Swarm events with Andy Bardsley.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, good on you, Benny.
yeah, exactly. So it's loads of fun. So it's kind of, this is a slightly different question than to round this one off.
Okay, go on.
As it's still there, as it's still alive, and now you know that it's still alive. And I'm not suggesting you'd be doing this day in, day out, but do you think that there is a chance that over the course of the summer months you might fire up Swarm and have another play with it? Okay.
Oh.
3, 2.
Oh, I've got to think about this.
1. Oh, he's still a negative ninny today.
Only to spite you. I mean, I'm yeah.
Honestly, I fired up the Swarm app. I downloaded it again a week ago, and people that I was connected to then are still using it. They're still updating their check-ins on Foursquare. Like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, shout out to those people that are still doing it.
Okay, all right. Well, fair play to them.
Cool. Okay, right. Last but not least for this section, then, the third platform from the past, the blast from the past, is Plaxo.
Plaxo?
Plaxo, yes.
But mouthwash?
Chandeep is fully on board. He is going to become the mayor of everywhere now. Thank you, Chandeep.
You can be chums, Swarm chums.
Yeah, so Plaxo launched in 2002 and was kind of initially an online address book. And there was a period of time where everything kind of felt like it was an online address book, right?
Okay.
Because
I can't. Yeah, I don't know if you're vaguely sort of nudging my memory banks there, Dan. But if you'd come on, if you told me Plaxo before this, I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So tell me more.
No. So basically, Plaxo is probably the closest thing to a LinkedIn competitor. That there's been realistically.
Okay.
And it started as this online address book in 2002, and then in 2007 they launched this function called Plaxo Pulse, which then became like the social network, the B2B social network elements. But I think they may have been too far ahead of the curve, because if you think back to 2007, not many people were doing lots of sharing and social networking in the business environment then, right? Certainly nowhere near what's happening at the moment. But as is often the case, they were acquired in 2008 by a megacorp, Comcast in this instance. And in 2011, killed. They killed the social network bit. So just as social networking was really starting to build momentum, they killed the social network part of Plaxo, which with hindsight seems absolute madness. And then in 2017, it was shut down altogether and is no more. Interesting fact about Plaxo is it was co-founded by the same guy that co-founded Napster.
Okay. He was the early. He's in the social network film, isn't he?
He is.
He invested early in Facebook as well. I can't remember his name.
Sean something.
Sean Barr.
Yeah, Shawnee. Feel free to drop that in the comments if you can remember his name. But interestingly enough, we're now finding ourselves in a situation where there is no real competition for LinkedIn in the B2B social network space, is there?
There is that German one, isn't there? Oh, what's the name of it? Begins with Z or X. There is a German one that looks almost identical to LinkedIn.
This does ring a bell.
I don't know if it's actually German, but it's used a lot in Germany. I don't know if it is German. But I remember when this a few years ago, actually my Firefly days, when we were working with a German team, that we were kind of duplicating effort a little bit across those two platforms. But it's been pushed out by LinkedIn for sure. So LinkedIn is kind of the only one doing its thing. But there you go.
Okay, right, people. This is the final yes/no question. So get ready, get quick with those fingers in the comments. Okay. The question is, given that LinkedIn has this predominance over the B2B social networking space, if the corpse of Plaxo Pulse was reanimated, and there was a chance for you to build your presence and profile on a different platform, would you go for it? An alternative to LinkedIn. If Plaxopulse was reanimated as an alternative to LinkedIn, would you sign up for it? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, Phil.
I've gone opposite
Interesting.
again.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, well, more professional interest, I suppose. I think there's still a couple of gaps in the market for that LinkedIn hasn't quite filled yet. So, in terms of its functionality, I don't think it's ever really managed to compete with Twitter on the what's happening now kind of thing. Which I wondered if Threads might manage to take that, but I think it's audio wise, it's still, I had high hopes for Clubhouse. So I think there's some space for something that does it in a different way, not exactly what LinkedIn does, but maybe something a bit lighter. So I think there could be room for another B2B social network, and maybe that would keep LinkedIn a little bit more on its toes. But yeah, thank you, Chandeep and John, also for remembering. I wanted to say Zing. I knew it was a kind of an XE type word, but there we go.
Yeah. So we have our audience seems to be split along the same lines. So Joseph is with you. He would definitely
good old
sign
Joe.
up
I've always liked Joe.
And Charlotte, she says no, Phil. She says no.
Just click the wrong button.
It's it's interesting. I just don't think it would have to be significantly different. I think if it was mirroring what LinkedIn is doing, it would be a no. But if it was significantly different and offered value in clear and obvious different ways, then I would totally explore it.
I think LinkedIn has done a good job with, on the whole, of making sure that the place is professionally run. They do have some problems a bit with harassment and stuff like that. But I think being owned by Microsoft, a proper grown-up corporate, not a Playboy billionaire, I think they generally do things in the right way, quite thoughtfully. So I can't see them screwing it up. And I think it's got a lot of value still. So I think they'll hold the throne.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for getting involved.
Thank you for that, Dan.
I
thought that was jolly good fun.
I think it was rather good fun. It was an informative discovery and a lot of Wikipediaing. So
I would say I'll see you on Swarm, but I can't be bothered.
I think I might break you on this one. I might break you.
Okay, chipping away.
Okay, then last subject for today, Phil, and I am just going to call up this shared screen. Okay.
Well, let me just do the topic first. So, why aren't some salespeople hearing the feedback about social media tactics? So, let's have a look at that post. It's a couple of weeks old. We were going to do this one a little while ago, but we didn't because we ran out of time. I saw this post from this guy called Scott Stewart, and probably capturing a little bit of the mood of LinkedIn at times. Just FYI. I'm not on LinkedIn to be sold to. I'm here to share information and ideas. If you connect and DM and sell me something, our connection will be over and I'll delete your messages. And he just got a lot of reaction. If you just scroll down to a little bit down, if you don't mind, the top comment from Russell Pompier, does Touchstone Global have people that do sales? So I just thought it was quite a good way of sort of kicking off a bit of a conversation about people selling on LinkedIn, what LinkedIn is there for, whether it's okay to sell on LinkedIn, and what the right way of doing it is. Dan, you might want to sort of close that. What's your take on what you see on LinkedIn from salespeople? So it is a marketplace, like all social networks. It's there for B2B. Why shouldn't people sell on it? And why? So what are people doing wrong if they are selling on LinkedIn?
Yes. So first of all, I completely and utterly agree that this platform only exists if people are going to get a commercial benefit out of it in the long run, right?
Yeah, okay.
But I think that the optimum words there are long run. And I think the three things that wind me up, and I know also frustrate lots of other users, whether they're sort of C-suite or any other level in the organization, is when they receive sort of scattergun messages from people that are trying to push for more volume than they are quality. It's never a positive experience to be on the receiving end of that. The second is when the message is that you receive on your personal DMs or whatever is generic, because there is literally no excuse for not looking at somebody's profile and tailoring the message just a tiny amount to land with people more readily. And then third is possibly the biggest problem I see is people rushing to sell. Salespeople are there; they exist to sell. That is literally their job, right? But that doesn't mean that everybody is there to buy, and certainly not there to buy at that moment. Especially if you're thinking about enterprise grade technology investments that are going to cost multi-millions of pounds and roll for tens of years in contracts and things like that. That kind of need to just go boom. I've connected. Now I'm going to try and sell to you. That is awful. That's just an awful tactic. So that is my negative, albeit an attempt to frame it in slightly constructive terms about why I think it's a problem. What about you?
I mean, I can't disagree that there's some pretty shoddy sales tactics out there and people using it like a telesales tool. My favorite one recently was getting invited to buy part of a private jet.
Which part?
I don't know what I'm. I couldn't afford the wheel or the tires. I mean, I drive a Volkswagen Tiguan. I'm not really in the market for a private jet. But straight in there selling the private jet. That's pretty bad. But I don't know. I think there's probably a lot of good behavior doesn't get noticed. So I think if you're selling well, people don't realize you're selling. So on that basis, if you take that logic, you could argue that there's as much good sales, social selling going on LinkedIn as bad sales. I don't know if there is, but you could make the argument that actually, if you're doing it well, if you're building value and using it in the right way, people won't even notice you're doing it. And we've started using a bit of an analogy of an iceberg and thinking about the activity that you see in public being above the tip of the iceberg. That's what everybody sees. But actually, the real value from a sales and social selling perspective is often what you then, to close the deal at least, is what you're doing below the iceberg. Mm-hmm. You kind of dive into things, and people can take advantage of using DMs and just doing things privately rather than having to do everything in the public domain. I think if you start to understand the context of what you're trying to do in each domain and how to build things up gradually, I think it can work quite well. And there have been examples where people have done that well. To me, we have clients that do well on it, and other people that have had success doing these kind of things. So I don't think it's universally bad. We just remember the bad stuff. Like we remember the terrible meals that we have out, or the awful film that we've seen, or something like that. So people tend to remember the bad stuff. That would be my positive spin.
Yeah, I mean, the film analogy falls down because sometimes a film is so bad that it's really good. I don't think that applies.
There's never so bad social selling that it's really good, is there?
No, it's interesting because I think if you and I have both seen the inboxes of C-suite, and everybody wants to get to the C-suite. That's always the thing that they do. They're not thinking about the network of people around those leaders and nurturing those,
including the people that actually do buy the thing.
Yeah, they're thinking, I want to get in with the CFO, the CTO, the CEO, and I'm just going to bang that message in and go, do you want to buy this stuff? Do you want to buy my hygiene solutions for your toilet facilities in your offices? But they don't. They behave like they don't understand that they are one of many other people that is trying to do exactly the same thing in exactly the same way. And pretty much all of it gets ignored.
It does. Absolutely.
And it really,
and I think a lot of the people that we see complaining about it are probably more people similar to us, or LinkedIn people or freelancers and so on and complaining about it, you think, well, if you think you've got a problem with it, you try being a CEO and particularly of a medium to large organization, because if you just said, they'll more than every other message, 9 messages out of 10 will be somebody trying to connect and sell in the same message or very, very shortly after. And they just don't even look at them, so just don't bother. But okay, well, I mean, I think just reflecting on that post, I think there is a strong argument for encouraging people to carry on selling on LinkedIn. I don't think it's fair to say that it's not there for sales. It is there for sales. It's part of the purpose, just like it's there to recruit people and do all of the other good things, LinkedIn Learning. There's lots of different ways that people can extract some value. But you just hope that the people that are there for sales realize that if they do it wrong, it's just gonna blow up in their face. Anyway, so we've got on with our final question.
Before we do that, Phil,
I'm sorry, Dan.
There is one stat that I can't remember where it's from, but it's one that you and I have both heard many times, which is 95% of the time, your target audience is not in the mindset of buying.
In market.
They are not looking.
It's either Forrester or Gartner. I can't remember which, but I think.
Yeah, proportionately, how many of the messages that you get from salespeople that are bad, that are done badly, presuppose that you are, without trying to find out. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. Anyway, sorry, your question.
Yeah, okay, so let's we'll finish this one off. We have run over on time, but it is our last episode. So last question of yes, no. Feel free to join in the comments if you're still watching. Do you ever accept unsolicited connection requests without a note? So do you ever accept it? You look at the person and decide whether you're going to accept or not. I want you to be really honest here, Dan. The question is ever accept. Okay. 3, 2, 1. You never do.
No.
Ever? Wow.
No.
Purist.
And there's 2 reasons for that. One is I value my network, and it's only useful to me if I've got people in it that I understand what they do, what they're going to bring, that kind of stuff. The other is people. I found years back, if I did accept something like a contextless connection request, that person would not then actively contribute to my network. So they were either not publishing content, they weren't interacting with other users whatsoever. And I think there is a tactic that some people use to connect with people to get them closer to the people that they actually want to get closer to. So you're kind of being used as a stepping stone almost to get to somebody else. And I'm very wary of being the weak link in the chain in that one. So
you don't want to be used.
Yeah, so I do not accept unsolicited connection requests on that basis.
Very commendable.
Thank
Very
you.
commendable. I was the same, and I think probably during the pandemic, that's when I sort of let the guards off a little bit and accepted a few. I would say when I do, I don't accept everyone, but when I do, I have to say 8 times out of 10, I probably regret it, because people then just try and sell me a private jet. And so most of the time I wish I don't, but there are a few good ones in there. And I think if somebody is in a very similar field to me, or I feel like there could be some value in the relationship, I will accept it. But I have to say, most of the time I regret it straight after. So yeah, probably a good idea is to just stick with your rule, Dan, I would say.
Be harsh.
So there we go. Good.
Awesome. Thank you to everybody for getting involved in the comments today. Some great contributions. If you're watching this on playback, still drop comments in, thoughts. We will be adding some more links and references into the show notes as well after the event.
Whatever you do, don't call the premium rate number. The competition is closed, and if you participate in the competition, you may not win the prize.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. But that is us for the summer. We are going to take a break for probably until late August, early September now. So thank you very much for all of your support for the season 2 of Shedheads. We've had some technical troubles, some waves to ride along the way. But it's been great to have you coming back, getting involved in the conversations. Have a great summer yourselves, and we will see you again come late August, early September. We'll give you heads up. If there are things that you would like us to talk about when we come back, please feel free to get in contact with either Phil or myself directly, or drop it in the comments. Otherwise,
just don't send Dan a connection request
no,
unsolicited.
No.
He's not going to accept it.
Top tip, do it on desktop, don't do it on mobile. If you're going to send a note, do it on the desktop. Don't do it on the mobile, because it won't let you. There you go. And we sign off. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.